You can find us on missionbravo.com. Hey, if you find this video knowledgeable or beneficial in any way, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the videos, and check out everything else that I've got online. I want to talk about doing proper technique. I very rarely get to train with others in my own facility now because there are so many who simply refuse to do proper technique. They want to argue with me. They want to say, "Well, I'm doing it this way because." Well, I can't because. There's always, before I even explain why you would like to use proper technique and the benefits of it, they're already telling me why they won't. It makes it very difficult for me to train with those people. I have others who refuse to throw punches when they're boxing. They want to throw punches and pull them at the last minute. Same thing with kicking. And then when they actually make contact, they act like they almost killed you. And that's the purpose of sparring, isn't it? But when you are doing technique correctly, when you go to a gym every day and you're doing the same technique over and over, boxing, for example, you're throwing boxing combinations. Every time you throw it, your punches should get better. You should be looking in a mirror. You should be seeing if your punches are better, if your hands are up, if you're slipping correctly, where your eyes are at, good footwork. And too many guys don't do that. They just come in every day like a robot with no thoughtfulness of trying to improve, and they just want to hit the gloves, hit the bag, whatever, basically, and go like a caveman. Yeah, punch good. I punch bag. Hit good. Punch good. And then they have somebody who's 110, 120 pounds, like Jesus Salud, who just hits like a truck, and they don't understand why their technique isn't like that. Well, first of all, stop always trying to argue. Stop always making an excuse. I have ladies also. The ladies refuse to. They refuse to spar and box. The first thing that they'll say is they'll criticize others, but then they'll be like, "Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Not me." And you need to be out there doing it also. But proper technique is like having a good sharp knife. Now, you can take an old dull knife and you can accomplish a goal eventually, but you can take a good sharp knife, and if it's surgically sharp or razor sharp, then it takes very little effort. Now, a lot of guys, when they come in and they start punching and you try to give them advice, they actually become resentful because they want to show you how much they know already. They're like, "Hey man, I know how to throw a punch. I know how to do this." Guys kicking, same way. Throwing spinning kicks that are so wild and reckless, people cringe when they're around them because they can see just how wild that kick is. Not only that, but if you're fighting a grappler or somebody, and just because you're throwing a wild kick and think it's fast, well, that grappler, that jiu-jitsu player, or that MMA fighter, they're waiting for you to spin so they can throw you on your back and then submit you, break your arm off, beat you to death with it, choke you out, whatever. So all these things are problems that come into play with these guys who refuse to train consistently on developing good technique. It's kind of like trying to sharpen a knife on a whetstone. My everyday carries, all of my EDC knives are razor sharp, and they always have been. As a matter of fact, I often take other people's knives and sharpen them for them just as a favor, because once you see how good a sharp knife is, it's like, man, that's one of the few pleasures in life. Just a sharp knife. It's amazing. And that's the same thing with a good punch or a good kick, a good side kick or a good jump back kick, a good crisp left hook. Is like a sharp knife. When you're flailing or just punching wild, or you don't want to use your shoulders and your hips, or you want to immediately make an excuse, that's like a dull knife. You're still hitting the target, but you're not doing it with maximum efficiency. And if I have a dull knife, I literally have to sawtooth through something. And if I have a really sharp knife, it's almost like a laser. It just melts through whatever I'm cutting. And for my knives, I do this every day, almost every day, at least 5 days a week. And I want you guys to understand the dangers of sharpening a knife incorrectly are you can ruin it. You can ruin the profile, you can ruin the edge, you can ruin a lot of different points of the nomenclature. You can ruin the tip. You can do all sorts of things to deform that knife just by sharpening it incorrectly. So a guy who comes into the gym every day and does the movements wrong just because he wants to, and he wants to show me or show somebody else, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I'm doing it right. Here's how I'm doing it. And then all of a sudden he picks up his knife like this one day and the blade's gone, or the blade just looks horrible. And that's what happens when you are actually in a physical altercation with somebody who doesn't care about you. And they're not going to stop in the middle of the round of a friendly sparring session and say, hey man, stop. You're reckless. You're going to hurt somebody. They're going to take advantage of that situation and they're going to hurt you. And they're going to enjoy that. And this is a point that it seems like more and more in today's society, I have such difficulty getting this point across to people because they just don't care. They want to show me, you know what, this is how I do it. I've got one guy who always tells me, I'm doing my best, I guess I just forgot. And I've been telling him for 5 years how to punch, literally 5 years, and he refuses. Now, would you want somebody who's doing spinal surgery on your child to look at you and go, hey, I just forgot, man, I'm sorry. Or they're doing brain surgery on you, or they're delivering your child. Would you want that person who is supposed to be a subject matter expert, the same as a black belt or an expert kickboxer, supposed to be a subject matter expert, would you want that person to go, oh man, sorry, I just keep falling back on this, I know I didn't know she was delivering a baby. I just forgot. I went back in. I circumcised her. Seriously, I mean, that's how stupid it sounds when somebody says that over and over, because they don't have the ability, the cognitive ability to say, you know what? This is wrong. I can do this better, and let me fix this. They just refuse. So what does that say about that person? That's the same thing as a guy, you give him a knife. And I know a lot of guys who tell me, man, I hate sharpening knives. I hate sharpening knives. God, it's just... and then they try to use all these quick sharpeners and things like that, and they actually ruin the profile of their blade. A good knife is like a good punch. So, everybody likes to do the paper test. This is a paper test, but this is on a receipt actually, so it's really thin paper. Look at that. So I can slice this up, and all my EDCs are like that. I can just slice and slice all day long. And it's so simple. Look at that. Just tear it to shreds. And I can actually shave with my knives. I've done it a couple times and it gives you a rash, so I wouldn't, razor rash, I wouldn't do that. But I have done it just to prove a point. So just imagine if you could punch that correctly, or that with that much precision. Because a sharp knife is like a person who knows how to punch and kick and fight. That's what a sharp knife is. Now for me, I told you I don't get to train very often because there's usually so many people complaining. If I do, it's usually by myself. I get on the bag, whatever. But my knives, my EDC knives, my everyday carry, I carry 2 to 3 every day. So if you ever get into it with me and you think, okay, I got his knife away from him, well, guess what? There's another one coming. But you'll never get my knife away from me. But my knives, I sharpen them a little bit every single day. 5 or 6 strokes, very lightly with proper technique, about a 22.5 degree angle. And depending on the blade, some blades are much thicker, you go to 25 degrees, some blades are thinner, surgically thin, you go to 20 degrees or 10 degrees, like a straight razor or something like that. But every day, and I don't make it a big chore to go out and say, oh my God, I got to grind this knife down, I really got to sharpen it and just really work it. I just give it about 10, 15 strokes on a 600 grit whetstone, and then I strop it. When I make my coffee, I take my knife out, run my thumb over the edge, make sure there's no burr, and just give it a light feathering is all I do. Just a couple of strokes on each side, 4 or 5 times on each side, just lightly, basically just to give my knife its wake up. And my knives are always like that. All my knives are, and even the ones that are in my safes and my boxes and things like that. But that's my EDC. Now my punching and my kicking, I've got a pretty good back kick. I've got a very good back kick. I've got guys all over Hawaii who have tried to copy me. They've tried to copy my son for years, and they never will. I've seen some guys that try to throw it, and they look absolutely stupid. Um, so it's, but impersonation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? So I do appreciate the fact that people are like, man, that's a good kick. I got to learn that kick. Unfortunately, they are the people who are trying to grind their knife down on a whetstone, hoping that somehow that's going to make it sharp. That's never going to happen. And these guys who punch the wrong way, they kick the wrong way, or they always want to make an excuse, and my back hurts, my leg hurts, I can't, and he grabbed me, and I can't do this, and you know, they've always got an excuse. There's no way that I can ever train with those guys, ever. There's no way that I can ever do it, no matter what they. Yeah, but you know, I didn't. It was my leg. You know, there was a unicorn that ran out in front of my car that day, and he had on a top hat, and it just he hit my car, and you know that caused my knee to hurt. And I mean, literally, that's how stupid it sounds over and over. When you're training, you need to just get in there and train. Um, you know, that's another thing, is a lot of guys love to brag about name dropping, especially in Hawaii. The Bradas love to name drop. And the name still comes up, even though it's 20 years later, is Dennis Alexio. And Dennis Alexio is a world heavyweight kickboxing champion. You guys probably saw him in Kickboxer as a brother. And he was at my gym nearly every day. I was his daily punching bag almost every day for nearly 20 years. So when I hear these guys talk about, yeah, man, me and Dennis, and I did this, and Dennis did that, and I taught him how to do this, I'm like, oh God, dude, shut up already. Because I know Dennis well enough. I know Dennis as well as I know my own brother. And these guys that used to come up and try to talk to him while he was training, he'd put his hand in your face and just shove you back until you get out of his face. And he'd go back to hitting his bag. And nothing personal. And if it hurts your feelings, oh well. But he was there to get his work done, get his time in on the bag, and all these people that wanted to come up and talk and, hey, can I have an autograph? Can I have a picture and this and that? And he just, if he wasn't busy, he'd do it for you. If he was busy, or you're one of those guys who always had an excuse, he'd put his hand right in your face and mush your face until you get back. And I cringe at the number of guys today who want to impress me with the number of excuses they can make. Man, I could do this, I could be so good, but I could do this so good, but you know, that damn unicorn that ran out in front of me. And they've always got an excuse. And no matter how lame that excuse is, man, I better believe it, or they're going to become resentful over that. So it's impossible for me to train with those guys. It makes no sense. It puts me at risk. It puts my safety at risk, because knowing that they're going to hold back, or they won't follow through, or they always have an excuse, it's nothing but a liability. I can see that one of them getting hurt by accident, and then immediately blaming me for that. But anyway, that's neither here or there. My point of the story is this video: proper technique, like sharpening a knife. You know, 22.5-degree angle, a couple of strokes each day, just a couple of strokes with my knife, and my knife is razor sharp. I've taken other people's knives, and within 5 minutes, and I mean dull knives like a chisel, and within 5 minutes, got a razor's edge on it. So it's all about proper technique. It's not about grinding and trying to force it. And all these guys, especially when guys want to throw spinning kicks, and they want to force that wild spinning kick, and then, you know, scream and hey, you know, and hasa, hey, and do all this when they're doing their technique, that serves no purpose whatsoever. And this is the very person who refuses to understand the potential danger they're setting themselves up for in a real fight, because they're trying to grind that technique into being a good technique, just like trying to grind a knife into a razor sharp edge. Never going to happen. There's no way that you can ever do that. So take your time with it, do it right, develop a technique. And like I said, you know, it's because a lot of guys hate sharpening even knives, but there's a good martial arts lesson there. If you're doing it with good technique, you're going to have a razor sharp knife. If you're punching and kicking with good technique, you're going to have beautiful technique, very effective and efficient technique. If you're not, it doesn't matter how many excuses you make. You're just going to walk around with a butter knife. So do the technique correctly and get into your gym and start developing good technique. If you've got an EDC knife, if it's not razor sharp, why? This is Bob Smith, out.